Access to medical care is becoming more and more of an issue here in Guam, and it doesn't even matter if you have the ability to pay. It's getting harder to see a doctor, to get an appointment, or to get the specialty care that you need. So I want to show you a growing solution to a growing problem. They're going to go out of their way to help find you a solution. And they've been growing their clinical services. Aside from this place looking and feeling homely, like this is their waiting area. Like, I don't think that people really understand that they do full clinical services here. Like, this is one of their clinical rooms. Look how nice it is. You get your vision exam here. So do you need to see an OBGYN, get family medicine done, internal medicine done? This is all stuff that's done here at the Total Guam Foundation. And just to tell you again, this place is not for profit. This is the psychologist's office. Yes, they have a psychology department. They also do psychiatry. It's an entire mental health department that they have here on top of all the other clinical services that they provide. If you need medical care, if you're having problems getting a doctor, getting an appointment, call the Todu Guam Foundation at 649-TODU or 649-8638. You can visit them. Good morning, everyone. And you know what? Happy Mother's Day to I'm gonna try this out because I have both of my parents divorced when I was 3, and they both had children before me and children after me. And so I had my parents who liked to breed. And there's a lot in my family. There's a lot in Johnny's family. Thank goodness there are very few in the families of the rest of Kandit. So let me just start with Johnny Rosario. She's the mother in our family, in our company. Happy Mother's Day to her. And Vicky Lynn Manglotnia Terragetsu. She's another member of our Kandit family, and she's a mother as well. Okay, now there's Happy Mother's Day to my mom, Dahlia, my stepmom, Diane, my sister, Tammy, my brother's first wife and mother of his first child, Judy, my brother's wife and the mother of all of his children after that, Liz, my brother's wife, Liz, all of the mothers of my brother Sheldon's children, my brother Scott's wife Kia, my deceased brother Ronald's mother of his kids. I don't remember her name. My sisters Danielle and Maria, their mothers. My sister Teiko, she's a mother. My sister Tiara, my sister Trinity, they're all mothers. My auntie Eleanor, my auntie Bernice, my dad. Those are my dad's sisters. I'm gonna forget people, I swear. It's just, there's a lot in my family. My niece Tyler, that's my brother's daughter. My brother's a grandfather. So on Johnny Rosario, Johnny has a lot. Just Johnny, her Auntie Tita, her mom, all of Auntie Tita's sisters, and there's like a lot. And then there's Johnny's daughter Danielle, her daughter Jessie, her daughter-in-law Hillary. I'm gonna forget people. And Eric Rosario's mom, Auntie Elsie, Isaac Nurbubble's wife, Kat, and her mother, Auntie Rita Widener, Carlos Pangalinen's mother, Auntie Pat, my brother and sister's mother, Auntie Mary, and all of her sisters. I my cousin Shelly and my cousin Mon. There's a lot. There's a lot. I have a lot. Anyway, happy Mother's Day to you all. If I did not say your name, I cannot forget to say this. She's not part of the Kandit family, but I know she will beat me up if I don't say this because I love her so much. Our best friend, Vanessa Navarro. Happy Mother's Day. And to all of you, happy Mother's Day. And if you're wondering why there's a show on Kandit on Mother's Day, there's actually going to be 2 today. It's because Sunday is the very first day of my work week, and I like to work. There are 2 issues that I want to talk about today. Happy Mother's Day to you all. Oh, Auntie Lonnie, happy Mother's Day. We love you. And thank you for being the mother of those puppies that I gave you. The there are two issues that I want to talk today, and they're kind of related. One is I keep getting questions about DSNAP. That's like the number one, like when I'm out somewhere, the number one question I get from people is about whether there's going to be DSNAP or Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits coming to Guam. That's my protein shake. And I suppose you can imagine why people would be asking for that, right? It's tough economy, people not making enough money, and food's very expensive. And I know there are people who lost things or lost produce because of the power outages after the storm. But I think generally it's just people want that opportunity to have federal funds so they can buy more groceries because groceries are so darn expensive. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a kind of update from the governor's office. Yeah, I'll bring you a kind of update on that. But then over the weekend, I sat on this. I think it was since Friday, and part of the reason I sat on it is because their campaign hasn't responded to my inquiry yet. They said that they're going to get me something, but they haven't yet. But I do want to talk about something that is an emerging, phenomenon's the wrong word, but an emerging thing in the political campaign in Guam, at least for governor. And this one involving a lieutenant governor candidate, and it is EJ Calvo's brand of politics, and it stems from an ad that I saw of theirs on Facebook, and I took a screenshot and I sent it to their campaign, and I was like, can I get more information? Can I get a greater level of detail in your scrutiny, the scrutiny that you're trying to get across here? And it was about how in their administration, if they were to be elected, right, they would not politicize disasters, that when disaster relief funding comes, they won't wait until election year to give out the disaster relief funding. And I thought it was a very interesting take on something that you don't really hear politicians talking about now, elected people who are elected into office now talking about, and the criticism about the use of Malwar funds. Malwar was in 2023, and you tend to wonder, why is it that Malwar relief funds are only being rolled out in 2026 when a member of the administration is running for office? But that's, that criticism aside, and I'd like to wait for Calvo campaign to produce something more. I want to talk about how EJ Calvo has been a different candidate from the other candidates running for office, in that he appears to be far more willing to confront these matters than any of the other candidates, at least so far. And I also want to bring you their, apparently this was part of not apparently, this quote from him was part of a 10-minute platform unveil. It was their platform unveil number 3, where they talked about how they would lead through crisis management. And they should probably pay me for that, for putting this out, but because it fits into the context of this discussion, it's a good idea to see this whole thing. Plus, it's a platform thing. Everyone deserves to see a platform thing, right? So we'll talk about these things on the other side of this first commercial break. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a short commercial break. Please stick with us.
Good Morning Show with Troy Torres is brought to you by 76 Circle K Guam.
Happy Mother's Day. Welcome back to the show. See, I told you it was going to be a short break. The one question I'm Troy Torres, by the way. It's 8:14 a.m. on Sunday, May 10, 2026. The one question I get asked all the time whenever I'm out anywhere is, are we getting DSNAP? When is DSNAP coming? So for those of you who are unaware, and if you are unaware, you might have been living under a rock after Typhoon Malwar, but after Typhoon Malwar, there was something called DSNAP that was rolled out. Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps following the disaster, which was typically for everyone. And when people say we want, so after Sinlaku, there was the news that anyone who had SNAP was going to get a 63% increase in those benefits on a certain date. I think it was like May 19 or something like that it happened, or something like that. Anyway, it was a Friday, and at 7 p.m., after 7 p.m., it was going to appear in your EBT thing. And the number one criticism that came up from that was, what about the rest of us? Why don't they give us SNAP or DSNAP for the rest of us like they did in Mawar? And what people are talking about is the DSNAP program. And the DSNAP program, I just want to give you a little bit of a just the fundamentals of it, right? It's not something that's always available after a disaster. It's something that is only available when a presidential major disaster declaration is made that unfurls the FEMA Individual Assistance Program. And it provides to a great number of people who were affected by whatever disaster it was with SNAP benefits. And it's through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so the key here is, and there are some people who are asking about individual assistance, right? I haven't heard anybody ask about SBA loans, but I'm not sure if it's anything that's needed. But the key here is that there has to be a major disaster declaration. And there has not been one for Guam yet, at least. We're not sure if there will be one. And the reason there has not been one is because the governor has not yet submitted the request. And the reason the governor has not yet submitted the request for a presidential major disaster declaration, we're talking about the Guam governor now, is something that John Ryan, her director of communications, addresses in the communications or in the media chat with the Guam media. So this is what he says. The release of DSNAP is an individual benefit triggered when the president issues a major disaster declaration for Guam if a minimum damage threshold is met. This has not happened yet. Indeed, individual damage assessments are still underway. Keep in mind that ultimately the government of Guam submits a request for a major disaster declaration, and if it is approved by the president, then DSNAP benefits program, if stood up with federal money. We are not there yet. Indeed, we are still a few steps away. Assessment, submission, and presidential approval or authorization must all come first. So that's John Ryan, the Guam governor's director of communications, about where we are in like the lead up to any potential DSNAP for everybody. So I'm just curious why we're still at the assessment phase. We're almost 1 month to the onset of the disaster, which was Typhoon Sinlaku. And I think we can all remember previous typhoons, even smaller typhoons, where assessments were done within the first week of the storm leaving. So what is taking the administration so long to complete this assessment? Is it because they have not dedicated enough workers? We know that there are enough workers because the size of the government of Guam workforce has gone up by somewhere around 1,000 employees since Governor Luliangoro took office. Eddie Calvo kept the Gov Guam workforce somewhere around 10 to 11,000 workers, and Governor Luliangoro it's increased slightly to between 11 and 12,000, and it fluctuates, depending on the season or whatever. But we know that there are more workers now than there were before when assessments were being made more timely. But maybe a difference is, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but the problems that Civil Defense and Guam Homeland Security have run into with audits and with their grants, or maybe there's a higher threshold that the federal government now has on Guam for proving that things are in the assessment as we say they are being assessed. And maybe that has to do with the dings that we were getting on these federal grants. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I highly doubt the governor's office or Civil Defense or Guam Homeland Security will ever admit to anything like that. So, we just have to wonder. We have to be curious about, and sometimes we can surmise based on the information that's available, whether the problems that this administration, and coming from the tail end of the last administration as well, according to these audits, have anything to do with the delay in getting things done following Sinlaku, because this does seem to be a pretty significant delay compared to others. Now, the administration will come back and say, now, Sinlaku is not a malware. Yes, we understand, which probably makes us wonder why it's taking even longer, because following malware was much more chaotic. There were resources needed for many other things, but for whatever reason, we were still able to get the assessment done. And the major disaster declaration happened the same day that the governor sent the request, and the governor sent the request the same day the storm left. So what gives here? And then you look at the CNMI and their ability to get their major disaster declaration. Of course, the difference there is that there's the amount of damage, right? And the sort of leeway they had there. But they were able to get their they were able to get their assessment done. And so it's, well, what's taking this assessment so long? And why can't you give us even a ballpark? Because we haven't received it. The last ballpark we got was over business damage in Tumon, which the governor said was like, I think 20 million or something, 23 million, something like that. And something, there was something in the 8 digits or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah. And hold on, we're getting something in from the governor's office. Stand by. Oh, it's the governor's Mother's Day message. I would play that, except that I'm not set up to do that right now. So maybe we'll give you the governor's Mother's Day message as a separate thing, or on its own, or whatever. Those are always nice, right? So yeah, to answer the questions of people who are wondering, when are we going to get DSNAP? And this is what I've been telling people is I don't know. And I don't know whether we're going to get it. And John Ryan's right. It all, he gave a pretty responsible response. It's just, it's missing some information. Like, why is the assessment taking so long? When do they expect that the assessment will be done? Aren't we like coming up on the 30 days, which is the deadline to get this assessment into Homeland Security or President Trump or whatever, in order to get that letter done? And, how much is it so far? Have we even passed the threshold? Because there's a threshold that needs to be passed. Have we passed the threshold in the ongoing assessments? I mean, these are all answers that we're not getting yet. But there was a disaster that we're very familiar with, where there was a major disaster declaration, and there was individual assistance. There was household assistance. There were SBA loans. There were FEMA opened up disaster centers. There was DSNAP. We're familiar with that. And that was typhoon malware. And another thing that came about was about a $500 or $600 million grant that GURA is now using in order to do a whole number of things. And this was for a disaster that happened in 2023. It was funding that was approved, I believe, in 2024. Could have been approved in 2025. But it is only being rolled out in mid-2026. And on the other side of this commercial break, I want to talk about how EJ Calvo, who is a candidate for lieutenant governor and has never been in office before, he's held public office through appointed. He's been the chairman of the Guam Economic Development Authority before, but he's never been, as far as I know, a government of Guam employee or an elected office holder. But he had some very direct words about how this administration is using disaster funds in an election year. And we'll come back to that, and we'll talk about that on the other side of this commercial break. Stick with us. By the way, if you need a Mother's Day cake, just go on over to Cold Stone Creamery in either GPO or the Micronesia Mall. They're selling Mother's Day cakes, and if you need to put on like Happy Mother's Day, I love you, Mom, whatever your message is on those cakes, they do it really, really fast. The reason my eyes go everywhere is because I'm looking at myself in the screen and I'm trying to get the proper like angle so that I don't look so. See, like this, not a good look. This I don't. You know, you skinny people. Sometimes I really can't stand you because you don't have problems like these. Oh, by the way, the other thing is before I get to this EJ Calvo thing, there was a comment on a Kandit. Oh, it was our posting of the Cold Stone ad for Mother's Day. Coincidentally, someone is asking where they can. I guess they live off island. They would like to order flowers for delivery in Guam. So if you guys know anyone, can you put it into the comments? And especially if you know the phone number, it would be helpful if you have the website or the email or whatever, right? Anyway, so I thank you in advance. All right. EJ Calvo, he brought up there was an ad. There's an ad that I saw on Facebook, and I sent this over to the Ada Calvo campaign, and I'm still waiting. They said that they're going to give me a response, right? So this ad by EJ Calvo, it says, it's a quote from him, and it says, when federal disaster funds are provided for the benefit of our people, they should be deployed in a more timely manner and not held back until an election year. And it's a quote from EJ Calvo. So I saw that and immediately sent it to the Ada Calvo campaign. And I asked, can the campaign provide to Kandit more in-depth scrutiny of the administration's spending of disaster funds stemming from what candidate Calvo is quoted as saying here? Because it sounds like, I mean, he very likely is talking about the Malwar funds and specifically the Gura Malwar funds, the $500 to $600 million that's being let out. And you see a flurry of activity happening now. They're going to hire like hundreds of people to administer whatever. I guess they're going to fix up homes. It's called the Fix in 6. I think fixing the damage from Malwar in a 6-year period, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, the kudos to the administration. Kudos to Fernando Estevez for getting that grant. And he got the grant sometime in 2024 or 2025. And the grant only is being rolled out right now. I mean, the timing is just highly suspicious. And, you know, this harkens back to, remember 2022? Remember all that ARPA funding that Mike Nicholas got back in 2022? And the administration held on to all of that funding. And everybody was pissed. Remember how pissed everybody was at the administration. And this is how you can tell how easy it is, how cheap a lot of voters are. How absolutely cheap several voters are. Prostitutes, if you will. Political prostitutes, absolutely. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And if it offends you, you might want to look at yourself in the mirror the next time you go and vote and ask yourself whether that's the type of person you want to remain in being, or if you want to turn a leaf and change for the betterment of yourself and, more importantly, for the rest of us and for your children and the posterity of this island. Because political prostitutes is not what we want when voting. And I'll tell you why this is something that I feel very strongly about. Because I very vividly remember how pissed people were between, I'm sorry, this was the election of 2022, and it was the ARPA funds that were given out in 2021. My bad. I remember how pissed people were from 2021 into 2022 about how disrupted their lives were, how the opportunity seems so bleak, how many of their relatives had to leave Guam, how many of their friends had to leave Guam, the jobs that were being lost, how the government was functioning. There was the Pacific Star Hotel issue. There was the 19th floor. There was all the contracts that were going to all the cronies.
People were pissed at the administration. I remember it very vividly. And then 2022 comes, the year of the election. And all of a sudden, all the ARPA funds that were being held onto in 2021 just started to flood the island. And everyone got their sole source contracts. And everyone got their expedited procurement. And everyone got their direct assistance. What was that thing called? Ajuda needs something, and everybody got. There was just this raining down of money, federal money, that Michael Nicholas, the congressman, got for Guam. But the administration, of course, took all the credit for it because they're the ones who were spending the money on the quote-unquote local programs, many of which, by the way, are now under either federal court case, federal scrutiny, or the subject of audits where they're saying there's questionable costs, or even worse, no records, missing files. But this all happened in 2022. And it's the same kind of thing that's happening now in 2026. And it's kind of a similar amount of money, $500 to $600 million. And you just have to wonder, like, how is this being spent? And I know the people in those programs are going to be like, oh, we're the most honest people, integrity and all this stuff. Yeah, this is the same kind of thing that you guys said in 2022. And look at the federal court case that we have now. And look at the audits. And so when EJ Calvo says this, even though they are not advertising with us, it's not something that I can ignore. These guys better cut us a check for all the good stuff we're saying about them right now. I'm just kidding. But even though they're not advertising with us, they have a very good point. Let me quote from EJ Calvo again. When federal disaster funds are provided for the benefit of our people, they should be deployed in a more timely manner and not held back until an election year. And the reason this stands out to me is because he appears to be the only candidate for governor, lieutenant governor so far who has had the gumption and the balls to call things out. And it's not just this. I have noticed quite a bit and you know, I scroll through Facebook sometimes as myself, sometimes using the Kandit page. And so I guess a lot of the things that I look at, EJ Calvo is looking at, his handle on Facebook is Edward Calvo. His name is Edward, right? And every now and then I'll see someone that makes a slam on corruption in the administration. And then I'll see something that you don't normally see from other politicians. Edward Calvo liked this. And I see it in all these different things. I'm like, oh, well, he's not afraid. He's not worried about upsetting anybody. Because it's a refreshing thing. And I know politicians are not supposed to be engaged in stuff like that. But as a voter, as a regular person, as someone who hates corruption, I like that. I like that there's a politician who's willing to risk, who's willing, you know, he's running for something, he wants everyone's vote, but he's willing to risk that so that he can be honest. It's a refreshing feature in a politician. And so I was told that this quote of EJ Calvo came from a larger, it came from a news conference that we did not cover because, I don't know, we've just been really, really busy. And sorry. And I'm going to play for you the whole thing. And it's, I wish they would pay for the advertising for this, but they haven't. But anyway, I'm going to play you the whole thing because I think we need to get the fuller context on this. And also, Tony Ada, who is the governor candidate, he says a few things, or he leads this thing off. And I think it's worth our watch. Let's watch it now. Hold on. There we go.
Are with our brothers and sisters in the CNMI and the FSM. They are facing loss and uncertainty today. But they are not facing it alone. Guam stands with them as family because we know what it means to endure and we know what it takes to rebuild. I also want to recognize the men and women who showed up before the typhoon, during the typhoon, and after the typhoon has passed. our first responders, our utility crews at GPA and GWA, the mayors and their teams, our National Guard, our medical professionals, our telecommunications crew, and the many volunteers and community organizations who stepped in when our people needed them most. You are the backbone of our response, and our island is stronger because of you. We are grateful, but gratitude must be matched with action. There are plans, and we have capable people. We have agencies working hard every single day. But what we must strengthen is how we bring those efforts together with clear priorities, coordination, and follow-through at the leadership level. Because when systems are not aligned, it is our families who feel the impact. We have seen this cycle too many times. The storm comes, the damage is done, we respond, we rebuild, and then we face the same vulnerabilities all over again. That's not resilience. It's a cycle we have to break. A resilient Guam means being ready before the storm arrives. It means stronger infrastructure, reliable systems, effective communication, and a government that doesn't wait to act. It is already prepared. That is why today we are putting forward a key part of our Guam First agenda, our resilience plan. First, we will strengthen the systems our island depends on. This starts with enhancing and strengthening our emergency management framework across the entire government of Guam, something that has failed us for the last 8 years, making our power and water infrastructure more resilient, more reliable, and better prepared for the realities we face as an island in the Pacific. I want to recognize the leadership and the hardworking men and women at GPA and GWA. They are doing critical work under challenging conditions. As governor, I will work in partnership with the Consolidated Commission on Utilities to support and strengthen these efforts, because resilience requires coordination, not conflict. We will strengthen and leverage our relationship with the federal government to improve our energy and water systems through joint planning, partnerships, and targeted investments that support both national security and our civilian infrastructure. At the same time, I will advocate in Congress and with the Department of War to increase Guam's defense access roads funding and related infrastructure support, because these investments don't just improve our roads, they help harden our power and water systems as well. We will aggressively pursue federal funding to modernize our infrastructure, including programs like the Department of Energy's Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnerships and FEMA's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program. In fact, this is not new endeavor for me. I've done this work before. Over 15 years ago, I authored Public Law 3185 to prioritize the use of federal funding for infrastructure, and it has saved Guam's millions of dollars over the years. We will build on that approach and expand it to meet today's challenges. The law created a pathway to use federal dollars to strengthen our infrastructure, including supporting efforts to harden systems and underground power in parts of our island. While reducing costs to our taxpayers, it's an approach built on responsibility and one we will continue moving forward. Because when it comes to power and water, reliability is not optional, it is essential.
The Calvo administration will protect homes, because that's where resilience begins. The reality is simple. Most storm damage hits hardest at home. So we will launch a Stronger Homes program focused on helping families strengthen their homes in anticipation of future storms. We will set a clear standard for storm readiness and work tirelessly to support our residents to prepare for the worst, because every home in Guam should have protections like typhoon-rated shutters and structural reinforcements. In fact, Vice Speaker Ada already urged GURA to deploy Community Development Block Grant disaster recovery funding to support home hardening for qualified families, including grants for typhoon shutters, roof tie-downs, and window and door strengthening. I would also like to add that although Typhoon Mawar happened in 2023, program access just started in May of 2026, When federal disaster funds are provided for the benefit of our people, they should be deployed in a more timely manner and not held back until an election year. In addition, our administration will streamline permitting for major home upgrades so families can make improvements without unnecessary delays. And we will leverage federal resources to help make these upgrades more affordable. Lastly, we will work with the Guam Energy Office to support home upgrades, including solar and backup power systems, so families can keep the lights on even when the grid goes down. When homes are stronger, families are safer, and recovery becomes faster for everyone.
We will transform how Guam responds and recovers. No more delays, no more confusion. As governor, I will implement a unified command structure that brings together agencies, utilities, mayors, federal partners, and key stakeholders under one coordinated response plan, with clear roles and real-time line communications. We will pre-position equipment and supplies before the storm arrives, and establish pre-disaster contracts for debris removal and emergency services so recovery begins immediately. Our administration will modernize damage assessment by using technology such as drones and digital reporting tools to quickly identify impacts, document losses, and accelerate access to federal recovery funding, so the support gets to our people as soon as possible. Resilience is not just about infrastructure, it is about readiness. We will conduct regular, coordinated island-wide planning, training, and exercises across local and federal agencies, NGOs, as well as the Department of War. This will ensure alignment and preparedness so that when the systems are tested, our response is immediate, organized, and effective. We will establish clear timelines and accountability standards for response and recovery, so our people know what to expect and the government delivers. And as Chief Executive, accountability starts with me. It means taking responsibility and ensuring every agency moves with urgency and purpose. Because after a storm, every hour matters. Our people deserve a response that is fast, organized, and focused on getting families back on their feet, and that requires leadership that shows up and gets results.
The Calvo administration will educate and empower our people because resilience requires clear communication. We will launch island-wide preparedness campaigns so every family and business is ready for man-made or natural disasters. We will establish community emergency response teams and expand hands-on training opportunities so residents are equipped to act when it matters most. We will ensure clear, consistent, and real-time communication so every family knows what to do, where to go, and how to stay safe. Our administration will also work with mayors, schools, and community organizations to strengthen neighborhood-level preparedness and ensure resources and information reach every village. No more disconnects with municipal leaders and federal partners. Because government cannot do it alone, resilience is a shared responsibility.
And finally, we will strengthen financial resilience so recovery can begin immediately, not months later. Because when disaster strikes, families and businesses cannot wait. That is why, as Vice Speaker, I am preparing to introduce legislation to establish a disaster relief fund, a dedicated, locally controlled fund that ensures resources are available when our people need them most. While federal assistance is critical, it does not arrive overnight. Our people need support in the days immediately following a disaster, not weeks later. This fund will be built through disciplined annual contributions similar to the Rainy Day Fund, capped to ensure fiscal responsibility and replenishment over time, including through federal reimbursements. It will serve one purpose: to provide immediate support to our people and fund critical response efforts in the aftermath of a disaster, so our community is not left waiting and the government is not forced to pull resources away from essential services like healthcare, education, and public safety. Whether it's food assistance, temporary shelter, or other essentials, help should already be in place when disaster strikes, not delayed by federal process. This is about being ready to respond, ready to recover, and ready to support our people when they need it most. Now, some will ask, can we afford to do this? The answer is simple. We cannot afford not to. Because every dollar we invest in preparedness today saves many more in recovery tomorrow. This is not just about safety. It is about responsibility, protecting our people, strengthening our economy, and securing our future. This plan is about learning from what we have experienced and from what our neighbors in the CNMI are facing today, and making sure Guam is better prepared for the future. Because the next storm will come. That is not a question. The question is, will we be ready? Under this plan, under our leadership, Guam will be ready. Guam will be stronger. We will make our beautiful island the most disaster-resilient island in the Pacific, because our people deserve nothing less, and because our future depends on it. Thank you all. Si Zeus Maasi. God bless us all, and God bless Guam.
First of all, I don't know why that campaign does not have teleprompters. It's just a little distracting, like, seeing them looking down, looking up on their papers, and of course, anyway. Do you guys want to borrow some teleprompters? We have teleprompters here at Kandit. We just never use them. Anyway, aside from their message, which essentially, that entire message, except for that last part regarding that fund that they want to create, that's a great idea, actually. All that other stuff they were talking about is how disaster preparedness and disaster response already is supposed to happen according to the Guam Emergency Response Plan. And ever since this is since 2003 or 2004 when the plan was adopted, and it's been updated throughout the years, right? But what, like the unified command structure, that's a big part of the plan. And I think that there's a suspicion that the pandemic response, that there was a plan for that, and it was absolutely not being followed by the Leon Grossno administration during the pandemic. They went off script on that one. You could tell that the administration was not following the plan at all, leading up to and following Mawar. I cannot remember how the dengue outbreak thing was being was rolled out, but I do remember that at least in the communication side of things, they were not following. The Joint Information Center at that time was not following the plan, and it showed. It really showed, right? Is my volume on? Yeah. On Senlaku, it really appeared like the administration was following the disaster preparedness portion of the plan, at least on the communication side, and in some respects on the emergency operations side of the house. I don't know that any part of the plan was not followed in Senlaku leading up to the storm, but it does seem like after the storm there are some things that have not been followed, and I guess the hot wash will flush that out, and I don't even know whether they're going to allow the media to be a part of that hot wash. Maybe the hot wash already happened. I don't know. But everything that Calvo was describing as, this is what they'll do, that already is part of the plan. It's just a matter of following the plan, right? Which, I suppose the criticism there is this administration has not always followed what's in writing. But that's not the part that I want to concentrate on, which is all how to be prepared for disaster, how to lead through a disaster. That's wonderful, right? It's great that we now know this about one of the candidate teams. What I want to focus on is the point that EJ Calvo made, and it's just such a small part of that 10 minutes that he didn't expound on it. I really want the Calvo campaign to answer my question. I want more in-depth scrutiny about what this is, because I'll tell you, it sounds exactly like the criticism of politicizing, of using federal funds to essentially buy an election. That's essentially what I believe EJ Calvo is saying. And if he is saying that, he would not be exaggerating. The concern would not be something that it's like, oh, Calvo, what are you talking about? Because we saw it in 2022. And if you are one of those people who politically prostituted yourself in 2022 and gave your vote over because you got something out of that one whole year of rain down of federal funds that Lou and Josh took credit for wrongly, right? If you're one of those people who went in that direction because of that, and you've since looked back and you thought that wasn't a good decision, we shouldn't have reelected them because look at everything now, or look at the corruption, or I didn't know it was going to be like this. Hey, welcome. I'm glad that you saw that. And over the past 4 years, your eyes have opened to that. And I implore you, as this year progresses and that $600 million is rolled out, and it's going to be tempting to so many people. Look at, I'm going to do, by the way, a story about the election contributions and expenditures reports from all the gubernatorial teams. And I'm going to make this as uncomfortable as possible for everybody who has decided to make donations into these campaigns. My story is going to be simple. It's going to be a list of everyone who has donated into whose campaign. So the people of Guam get to see who has actually put their money toward who in this election. Because this is all public information, and the public should absolutely see what businesses are supporting what. I think it's a very fair thing for the public to see. And I know there will be this temptation over the next several months to look at that money and think, oh, yeah, this is good for me. I'm good with this. And not consider the future, and not consider that what this type of transaction, this type of essential bribery using federal funds, has done to our island over the last 4 years. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. Join me tonight for the Troy Torres Show, where we're going to talk a whole lot more about the Simon Sanchez High School rebuild, the difference between the $195 million Quartec bid and the $86 million that was bid by the losing from GFS, and the allegations that are made not just by GFS, but by the public auditor about corruption. Yeah, corruption in that whole procurement. It's just, if you saw these details, and they are details that we're going to unfurl in several stories starting today and for the next several days, if not weeks, it's going to make you sick. And I really would like to know from all of the different parties who are involved how we got to this point and where we go from here. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a beautiful day. God bless you. Go to church. Take your mom to church. If you're a mom, go to church and thank God for the blessings in your life and for the example of the Blessed Mother. And for those who have lost mothers, go to church and ask for prayers. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. God bless you.
We delivered. Guam AutoSpot is extending our overstock sell-off with the hottest deals on island, like our 2025 GMC Canyon with $4,000 off, or slide into a brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, starting at just $24,995. September is your chance to drive big and save even bigger. Visit us today or get pre-approved online at guamautospot.com or call 478-AUTO. Guam AutoSpot, where the savings never stop.